Today on Prodigy Bowlers Tour. The Roswell Varsity and Junior Varsity Leagues began their 2018-19 league seasons back in September, and today they decide the league championships in a unique team stepladder format. All 4 teams in the Roswell Junior Varsity will contend, and the top 4 teams in the Roswell Varsity will vie for their championship. Teams in both leagues have been jockeying for position to try to make the stepladder finals today. A complex formula was used to assign points to all the teams. At the end of each third of the season, a snapshot was taken of the team standings. Points were awarded based on their standings, and all the season's points that were awarded for each third were added up to determine the team's seedings for the stepladder. In the Junior Varsity, where there are only 4 teams in the league, all 4 teams have a chance to win the league championship today. And in the Varsity, only the top 4 teams advance to today's stepladder. You will see all 8 teams compete to try to claim their league championships today. Celebrating junior bowling, elevating junior bowlers. This is Prodigy Bowlers Tour. Live on tape from Bolero Roswell in Roswell, Georgia. This is Coach Randy, welcoming you to episode 96 of Prodigy Bowlers Tour, the 2019 Roswell Varsity and Junior Varsity League Championships. In the Junior Varsity, as each third came to a conclusion, points were assigned to each team. 4 points for first place, 3 points for second place, 2 points for third place, and 1 point for fourth place. And in the Roswell Varsity League, where there are 10 teams, first place was worth 10 points, second place got 9 points, third place got 8 points, and so forth. Once all the points for the 3 thirds were tallied, we found that it was close, but that in the Roswell Varsity, these 4 teams would be competing today for the championship. In fourth place is Team 7, consisting of Faith Roper, Bryn Morgan, Allison McGowan, and Annalise O'Brien. Allison and Annalise joined our program midway through the season, and Annalise is the reigning U15 Girls Junior Gold National Champion. They'll face the third-ranked team, Team 8, consisting of Anthony Smiga, Tristan Davis, and Nick Dissinger. The winner of that opening game will advance to meet the number 2 ranked team, the Special Ks, consisting of Mikey Kabrinsky, Nolan Kemp, and Christian Knowles. The Special Ks won back-to-back league championships in 2016 and 17. Today, they'd like to make it 3 league championships in 4 years. And the winner of that second game will advance to face the number 1 seeded team, Charlie's Angels, consisting of Kara Freeman, Karina Shapiro, Savannah Croft, and Charlie Bostic. And over in the Roswell Junior Varsity, as we mentioned, there are only 4 teams, and all 4 will be vying for their league championship. You'll meet them as the teams come up to bowl. Because our coverage today will span 2 pairs of lanes, 4 lanes in all, you won't see the same kind of constant camera moves you're used to on Prodigy Bowlers Tour. Instead, you'll just be watching this wide shot of the 4 lanes and continuous action. So with that out of the way, let's get this started. In Game 1 today in the Junior Varsity, the 4th seeded team is Team 2, consisting of Jake Malik, Jonathan Berninger, and Harper Gordon. This team also carries a vacant. Unfortunately, Jake and Harper were unable to come today, so it's up to Jonathan to fend for himself in today's stepladder. Jonathan is the smallest bowler in our league. He'll be taking on Team 1, consisting of Marquise Burrell, Rowan Sautner, and Margot Gordon. This team also has a vacant score. You've seen Marquise on the show before, as he nearly ran the stepladder in our league's season-ending All-Star Varsity Tournament of Champions last year. He finished second to Derek Gilbert. But both Marquise and Margot were unable to be here today, so Rowan, another little guy, is on his own today. So basically, in our opening game among the junior varsity, it'll be Jonathan against Rowan, which means they'll be done in no time, while the varsity on the pair of lanes to our right will have pretty much a full complement of bowlers. In that Roswell varsity game, Team 7, Faith Roper, Bryn Morgan, Allison McGowan, and Annalise O'Brien will be bowling against Team 8, Anthony Smiga, Tristan Davis, and Nick Dissinger. This team also carries a vacant. The way we set up our league, all teams started the season with 3 players and a vacant, which gave us the flexibility to add a 4th member to a team when new players join, rather than adding a whole new team to the lineup. So some teams have 3 and some have 4 bowlers, but the teams with 3 all carry a vacant score to even things out. So let's get started with Game 1. Our 4th place teams taking on our 3rd place teams. And as you can see, the varsity is on the pair to our right. It's Anthony throwing the first ball. Now, these arrows are pointing to a box. I want you to notice on the score sheet. That's the number you want to watch. That is the total pinfall of all the players on the team, plus the team handicap. At the end of the game, that's the one that will matter as to who wins and who loses. As we watch Rowan get a spare in the first frame on lane 37. Anthony 9 out in his opening frame. And it appears we may be waiting for a ball return. So here's Jonathan, his second shot in the first frame on lane 38, and that's 2 in a row in the gutter. Jonathan is the smallest bowler in our entire junior varsity, and he is 10 years old and just the most delightful young fellow, and just has the best attitude I've ever seen. He is perfectly content getting some pins to fall and just doesn't get frustrated. He's going to get some this time. He gets a bunch. He gets 8. Leaves the 2-8. And now Rowan, his opponent, up on lane 38. You are familiar with Rowan, a frequent participant on Prodigy Bowlers Tour, and he leaves the 5-7 split. Little delay on 39 and 40 as we wait for a ball return. As Jonathan going for the spare here on 37. Doesn't quite get the front pin solid. Rowan will go for the split. So a couple of open frames. Now Faith on lane 40. And look at that. Knocks the 4-pin off spot, leaves the 4-7, but they're spread a bit. Now Tristan, his first ball on lane 39. Right where you want to put it, right in the pocket. Rowan wide with his first shot over on lane 37, I beg your pardon. And look at this, Jonathan right through the nose as Faith makes her spare over on lane 40. This is the kind of continuous action we're going to have all day. It's going to be a little chaotic. Rowan, a good play on the 1-2-7-9, but doesn't quite get them all to go. Now Bryn Morgan in the gutter with her first ball. All right, Jonathan, show us a trick shot. Oh, how about it? It just slips off into the channel. Bryn, as you see over on lane 40, she has made the stepladder finals in our league tournament of champions the last couple of years. And she makes a spare. As Rowan gets a strike on lane 38 in the junior varsity. These two little guys are going to be done in no time. Jonathan's ball finds the channel on the left. Now the overhead score sheet has the order of players for Team 7 incorrect. It should be Allison and then Annalise. Annalise bowls anchor on that team. We changed that weeks ago, but for some reason it's showing up out of order. But Annalise has switched it, so Allison will be next to go. There she is. You've seen Allison McGowan on Prodigy a number of times. In fact, all these players that you're seeing this first game, with the exception of Jonathan, have made multiple appearances on Prodigy Bowlers Tour. High hit by Allison leaves the 3-6-10. Jonathan having a little difficulty here in this game, but he's bowling all by himself for his team, as is Rowan, his opponent. Allison covers her spare, as does Rowan over on 37. And now we get our first look of the day at Nick Dissinger, or as we like to call him, Nick Dishwasher. And he rips the rack to start. We've seen that from Nick a number of times. And now Annalise, junior gold national champion in the U15 girls. She also won the Georgia State Pepsi in the U15 girls a couple of weeks ago. Comes up a little high there and leaves a 4-pin. And now Faith will begin the second frame for her team on the left lane of their pair. Pretty good shot. Leaves the 10. All right, Jonathan. Let's see some pinfall here. There you go. Looks like he may get a few. No, it drops off as Annalise covers her spare on lane 40. Rowan a little high with that one, leaves the 6. And now Anthony up on lane 40. That end pair, familiar to Prodigy viewers. It's usually our TV pair, as we see Faith cover her spare. Rowan covers the 6-pin. Now Tristan up on lane 40. And Tristan with a strong double to start. Now Bryn floats that one out to the right side and gets just 1 pin. Jonathan just needs to get a little bigger so that that ball isn't so unwieldy. There's a wall shot by Rowan for a strike on lane 37. Bryn just hasn't quite learned yet how to just swing the ball. She kind of just places it into the swing and kind of moves that ball around her hip, but doesn't really swing it exactly the way we teach. It hasn't quite clicked in for her yet. There's going to be some pinfall there for Jonathan. He gets 9 of them. Now Allison on 39. And she stuffs them straight back. Jonathan back at it on lane 37. That one is going to find the gray board. And there's another strike by Nick, and Nick and Tristan are setting the pace for their team, both with 2 strikes to start. You notice to our left, lanes 35 and 36 are the buffer pair. There's no one on those lanes. Annalise with a strike in the second frame. And then over on 31 through 34, those are the lanes that the teams that are next up in our team stepladder today. They are throwing practice games over there, staying ready. Anthony with a strike in the third frame. That gives him a double. Rowan with a big wide open split. The thing to do here is just get 2. And he gets a field goal instead. Meanwhile, over on lane 40, Faith leaves the 3-10 baby split. Well, that puts an end to Tristan's short string of strikes, the big 4. Jonathan just misses the head pin, leaves the 1-2-7-8 as Faith converts her split over on the end lane. The overhead scoring, what you are seeing there is as we see it in the bowling center. We don't usually show that on Prodigy, but with 4 lanes going at once, this seemed the most sensible way to show it to you. Well, let's check in with the scoring over here on lanes 37 and 38. You recall I told you to look at that number over on the right side. As it stands right now, Jonathan and his team 588 through 9 frames. Rowan's team 578. So at the moment, Jonathan and his team with a bit of an advantage. Now, of course, all the scores in the 10th frame have to be added in, not just the players who are bowling, but all the players who are absent. It's their average minus 10. Rowan with a spare in the 10th. That could prove crucial, as it looks like he's going to be a little over his average. Jonathan drops that one in the channel. And I believe that's going to tip the balance toward Rowan's team. We'll have to wait for the graphics to go away, but I think that's what we're going to see. When these graphics clear, we see 621 to 644, and Rowan's team survives a close one. And Rowan, all by himself, has moved his team into match 2, where they will face Team 3 in the second game. That would be the team of Josh Greenberg, Derek Gilbert, Jorge Seda, and Jake Gilbert. But rather than having them start, we're going to let the varsity team finish their first game before we start both the varsity and junior varsity on their second game at the same time. So we'll just have one pair of lanes to watch the rest of the way here in game 1, which will make things a little less chaotic, at least. Anthony with a 2-8-10. Not much you can do with that. There's Jonathan's dad, doing what any good bowling dad does, serving as a caddy for his junior bowler. I am a big believer in appreciating the job the parents do, not only to bring their kids bowling each week, but often to act as a caddy and to serve as a coach. In many cases, a lot of these kids, their dad is their coach. Obviously, the league supplies coaches, and we are blessed to have several good ones. John Perozzi and Gene Elston, both USBC bronze certified coaches. Orrin Anderson, a skilled bowler in his own right, and a very experienced mind who's been around the game for many years. And I'm asked frequently, or told frequently, that I do a great job coaching these kids, and I'm usually quick to say that I don't coach them as much as you think I do. Like, you take Annalise right here. I'd love to take credit for her game, but I've never coached her. Her dad is her coach. Her dad is a player on the PBA 50 Tour and was in my silver and bronze coaching certification classes, but Annalise has had him as her coach since she was very young, and she has dominated in her age group for many years here in Georgia youth bowling. Nick Dissinger here on the right. His dad is his coach, and his dad is a fine bowler in his own right. Tristan has gone to a couple of coaches over the years. I've worked with him a little bit. But it seems that as the youth director of this league, I spend more of my time collecting money and doing administrative chores than I really get to coach as much as I would like. All right, Anthony, a couple of opens, couple of strikes. There's another strike. He's halfway through the game. He's still looking for his first spare. Faith a little high, and oops, there's a big 4-7-10. She made the 6-7-10 on Prodigy Bowlers Tour a couple of weeks ago. And actually, so did Tristan, who's up on lane 39. He goes high and leaves the 3-pin. It's an open for Faith. The scoring system that we have at Bolero Roswell just went in the last, oh gosh, 6-8 months, I think. Hadn't been very long. Bryn gets a piece of the head pin, leaves the 2-4-5. Let's check the scores here. Again, it's that fifth number from the top, or the second one from the bottom, I guess you might say. On the far right of the score sheet, 336 to 377 at the moment. The girls lead. I don't have the sheet in front of me to tell us exactly how much they're getting in handicap. I suspect the girls may be getting a little more handicap than the boys. Although Annalise ended the season with one of the highest averages in our league. She is sporting a rather impressive 212 average. She and Allison joined our league halfway through the season. They bowled the first half of the season over at Cherokee Lanes, where they don't actually bowl a full 36-week season over there. They bowl 2 seasons, one in the fall up to about the Christmas break, and then they start over in January. We bowl straight through concurrent with the school year. We start right after Labor Day, and we go right up to the weekend before Memorial Day. Nearly a Brooklyn strike for Faith, but she leaves the 6. After a couple of open frames, she's glad to leave a single pin spare, breaking her streak of 3 straight splits. Annalise could have shaken them all up, but the 7 refuses to go. Well, as you can see, the boys have 3 on their team, Anthony, Tristan, and Nick, and they carry a vacant score to fill that 4th slot, while the girls have 4 players. As I mentioned in the setup, we organized the league so that teams had 3 members and a vacant. That way, if we had somebody come in and join once the season was underway, we could just add a player to a team somewhere rather than start a whole new team, which would force us to rejigger the entire schedule. Spare for Anthony. And that's going to be 7 out for Bryn. And she is struggling a bit. Bryn carrying a 120 average this year. I mentioned Annalise with a 212. Allison has a 159 average. And Faith with a 165. As for the boys, Nick Dissinger has one of the highest averages in our league with a 217. That should come as no surprise to anyone who watches Prodigy. Anthony with a 202 average, and Tristan finished the season with a 198. So as a group, they only get 1 pin handicap between the 3 of them, although they do get 90 pins handicap from their vacant score. Our vacants are a score of 100 and a 90 pin handicap. At least that's true in the varsity. We figure it and the handicaps a little differently in the junior varsity. It's based off of a lower number rather than 200. All right, Annalise. Couple of strikes, 3 9 spares so far. And once again, that 7 just stubbornly refuses to go. 9 and a wiggle is all you're going to get this time, Annalise. And Faith with a good hit leaves a 10 pin. So these 2 right-handers will go at the opposite corner pin spares. Annalise, such a solid spare game. She goes straight at pretty much everything. Whoops. A little grabby at the bottom by Faith that time. Anthony with another strike. And now Tristan with a strike working. His team is trailing by about 70 pins. Could have used that strike. As Bryn crosses over, nearly gets them all to go. Nudges the 9-pin, a little off spot. But that's an easy spare as we watch some of the junior varsity players from the team that's coming up. Team 3 starting to put their bowling balls on the rack. Getting ready. There's Josh Greenberg, one of the team members. There's Jake Gilbert putting his ball on the rack. And Bryn just running by the 9-pin. Tristan with a spare conversion. $496 for the girls, $436 for the boys. There's Coach John, you see in the foreground, lower left of your screen. One of our 2 bronze coaches. You've also seen him bowl on Prodigy a time or two. As Allison gets a strike in the 7th frame, and now Nick, 5 strikes in 6 frames for Nick so far. Make that 6 strikes in 7 frames as he checks the approach. Sometimes these kids find these approaches a little sticky. There, Annalise finally gets that 7-pin out. Solid strike there. But it remains about a 60-pin differential favoring the girls right now. And Anthony doesn't quite get the 7 to go. Faith high on the head pin. Breaks up the split. And Anthony with that familiar style that we've seen so often on Prodigy this season. Covers the 7. And there's Coach Gene in the lower left of your screen. You've seen him bowl on Prodigy a time or two as well. Oops. There is a chop by Faith. You see, she's limping a little bit. She got her knee banged up a little bit in an accident at school the day before. Somebody banged it pretty good with a water canteen. Not intentional. Now, once again, Bryn gets that ball up to get a piece of the head pin, but it doesn't quite drive through the way you want. She kind of spins it rather than rolls it. And so it doesn't drive through the pins the way you'd like. And she's got a very difficult split, the 4-5-7. Nick, another strike. We've seen this out of him before as Bryn tosses that one in the gutter. And again, if she will ever learn to just push the ball away and let gravity take it and just swing it straight back, straight through, instead of wrapping the ball around her right leg like she does, she would make vast improvement. We have talked to her about it. All right, Allison, got a strike working. She can help her team extend its lead a bit. But instead, she goes through the nose and leaves the 3. And that lead that her team had has shrunk a bit. Now, as it stands right now, they actually trail, but that's because Allison and Annalise have not thrown a shot yet or have not completed their frame in the 8th. There's a spare from Allison. She just barely ticks that 3-pin, but it's enough to get it to go down. But Nick, with this flurry of strikes, is helping the boys to catch up. There is a spare for Faith. And now Annalise looking to extend the lead with another strike. There you go. Now she's finally getting that 7-pin to go down. And Bryn leaving the 1, 2, 4. Ooh. Strong ball by Anthony. A little too strong. Cuts through and chops the 5 right off the 9. Bryn with another open frame as Anthony covers the 9. Well, when Annalise joined our league mid-season, I told Bryn, watch Annalise. You can learn a lot by watching how she bowls. You've got a great opportunity to model your game off of her, and so far it hasn't quite clicked for Bryn, but her 120 average is higher than it's been in recent years, so she actually has shown a little bit of improvement. All right, Allison up on the right lane. There's a solid strike. This game is close. Ooh, that's not going to help the boys. Now, I got to tell you that our point system, the way it works is, we explained this at the beginning of the show, how we take a snapshot of the standings at the end of each third of the season. And there's 10 teams, so the first place team at the end of each third gets 10 points, second place gets 9, third place gets 8, and so forth. And then we add them all up from each third, and the total is the ranking that we use to determine who makes the top 4 to get into the stepladder. And the 4th and 5th position, really the 4th, 5th, and 6th position, were very close. And we had a pre-bowl the last couple of weeks. We had both the Pepsi tournament in Columbus 2 weeks ago, and last week was the first of 3 weeks of the state tournament. We knew that some of our bowlers were going to be off at state, so we let them pre-bowl for last week. And we had a pre-bowl sheet get misplaced, and the league coordinator who works at the bowling center, who enters the scores, she had entered the pre-bowl scores for the previous week on the 27th of April. She entered the scores from the wrong sheet, so we had to have her go back in and re-enter the scores for the 27th, and then enter the correct week's pre-bowl scores for May 4th last week before we could determine the final standings in the third, which contributed to the points. And in the end, it was Team 7, this girls team that you're looking at right now, Faith, Bryn, Allison, and Annalise, that snuck in. And the team that got bounced was Team 4, known as small, medium, and large. That's the team of Antonio Hairston, Aiden Reynolds, and Big Logan Mathis. And Big Logan was not happy about it. But that's the way it worked out, and I'm glad we at least got it right. But there is another gutter for Bryn, and the best she can do now is 97 if she makes this spare and then strikes on the fill ball. So it's going to come down to the last few shots, it looks like. There's a strike for Tristan after his open in the 9th. And there's 8 out for Bryn, so she's going to end up with an 85 this game. Not what she had in mind. That's 35 pins below her average. And the boys now have taken the lead. There's a double by Tristan in the 10th, and that couldn't have come at a better time. Allison with a strike up and close the gap with another one here. But it goes high. She leaves a makeable spare. Now remember, there's Allison and then another bowler, Annalise. Whereas now with Tristan finished, there's only one more bowler. There's a vacant score below Nick's name on the score sheet. But Nick's the last one to bowl for his team. Allison's going to end up in the 180s. So if I calculate this correctly, and I'm honestly not sure if I am calculating it correctly or not, some of these scoring systems add things up kind of funny. Our old scoring system, I never did figure out how it added them up, especially when you had vacant scores or an absent player whose score got added in incrementally each frame. I never did figure out how it worked. But as it stands right now, it's close. 726 to 724. I'd say it's close. Nick with a strike. He can shoot 242. Annalise, she's thinking one thing. Let's get a double right here. There's one. $746 to $744. Again, I'm not sure if the vacant score has already been added in for the boys' score or not. A ringing 10 for Nick. It's possible that that vacant score has not been added in yet. So I guess it remains to be seen, but Annalise would do well to put this one right in the pocket. No, it's wide. Well, she doesn't lose count because she's on a strike, but she doesn't get the double she was hoping for. And that may have sealed their fate. So you add one more pin to the 746 that the boys had and wait for the graphics to cycle through. $746, and now it goes to $786. So apparently the vacant score had not been added in, so I'm not sure if that second strike by Annalise would have made any difference at all. But as it is, it's going to be Team 8, Anthony, Tristan, and Nick. They're the ones moving on, so we will get match 2 in both the junior varsity and the varsity when we return.
If you think bowling is still in the dark ages, think again. Introducing Brunswick's Color Vision Plus, the automatic scorer system that lets you see your scores in 7 exciting colors. See your spares, your strikes, even your turkeys flash on the overhead screen. See yourself in instant replay. See for yourself just how much more fun the sport of bowling can be with Brunswick's Color Vision Plus.
Automatic scoring now available at Thornhill, Newtonbrook, Rexdale, and Berry Bowleramas.
Good golly, Miss Marley! Look what you've done to Little Richard! These are not Little Richard's shoes!
You have got to see this.
These are all your shoes!
Now she can. With PCS Vision from Sprint, you can do more, like take, send, and receive full-color pictures right on the phone on the largest enhanced nationwide PCS network.
Who took the picture of Little Richard?
Did you get that? It's wild, isn't it?
It's totally wild.
PCS Vision from Sprint. Clearly, a whole new way to look at wireless.
Well, teammates who are absent are credited with their average minus 10 pins, which can put a team at a disadvantage. But in our junior varsity, since both teams in the first match had 2 team members absent, it didn't really play to either team's advantage. But Jonathan, with his high handicap, came closer than some might have predicted. But Rowan was able to sneak past that first match to get to match 2 against our 2 seeds, Team 3, consisting of Josh Greenberg, Jorge Seda, and the Gilbert brothers, Derek and Jake. And over in the varsity, the girls of Team 7 put up a heck of an effort, but came up just short against Team 8. So the team of Anthony Smiga, Tristan Davis, and Nick Dissinger are moving on to face Team 9, the Special Ks, consisting of Mikey Kabrinsky, Nolan Kemp, and Christian Knowles. In the junior varsity, Rowan's going to have his hands full bowling 1 against 4, using his teammates' averages minus 10. But in the varsity, this could be a battle to the very end. The Special Ks won back-to-back league championships in 2015-16 and 2016-17 before bowing in 2017-18. Mikey ages out and is going to college this fall, and he would love nothing more than to see the team win 3 championships in 4 years as he leaves the program. But the Special Ks have a formidable opponent in these 3 kids from Woodstock, Anthony, Tristan, and Nick. This should be a good match. Anthony tosses the first ball in the varsity match. Rowan, the first ball in the JV. He's on his own against Team 3. Here's Josh Greenberg. Crossing over leaves the 1-3-6 as Anthony whiffs the 10-pin. And now Mikey Kabrinsky. We haven't seen him much on Prodigy this year. This two-hander puts one right in the pocket to start. Josh wide with the spare attempt. And now another familiar face to Prodigy viewers as Nolan Kemp up now on lane 39. And he gets the 9 to go late. Now the bowler on lane 37 should be familiar to you as well. Derek Gilbert won our All-Star Varsity Tournament of Champions last spring in the JV. There's a solid strike by Josh. We saw Tristan throw a good one on lane 40 a moment ago. And there's a 7-out open for Derek in the first frame. Now Christian Knowles, fresh off his win in the U15 boys division at the Pepsi tournament in Columbus a couple of weeks ago. And now over on 37, Jorge Seda. You saw him on our Thanksgiving turkey shootout. He and Joseph Ruth took top honors and the big honkin' frozen butterball turkey. Nick with a strike on lane 40. Anthony a little high, leaves the 4. And now a player you've not seen on Prodigy before, Jake Gilbert, Derek's brother, on lane 37. Anthony with back-to-back opens to start this match. And over on lane 40 again, Mikey Kabrinsky. Mikey holds the distinction of throwing the highest game in Youth League history here at our bowling center, which for many years was known as Brunswick Roswell Lanes, then Brunswick Zone Roswell. It was the very first game of the 2016-17 league season. He started with the front 11 and left a 4-pin for a 299. One other bowler in league history at our bowling center had shot 299 in sanctioned competition, but it came at a tournament at another bowling center. So Mikey is the only one to ever get the front 11 in league here at our bowling center. Bolero Roswell, as it is known now. We had a bunch of 290s shot this year in our league. Nick had 2 of them. Logan Fossum had 1. I'm not sure I even remember who all shot 290, but there were several. Nick Gilbert had 1. Charlie Bostic had a 289, and it wasn't enough for high game. All right, Jake Gilbert, kid on lane 38. He finished 3rd at the Pepsi in the U10 boys. Rowan Sautner, little Rowan that you're familiar with, he finished 4th. Jake beat him in their match in the stepladder down in Columbus. Rowan was not happy about it. And Jake, we may have to start calling him Wrong Foot Jake. He finishes on his right foot. Hey, don't laugh. The first PBA tournament in history was won by Lou Campy back in 1959. Boy, here's a trivia question for you. Who won the first PBA tournament ever? Lou Campy. They called him Wrong Foot Lou. Right-hander, he finished on his right foot. I knew a guy back in Dallas, Texas, who was one of the best bowlers in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And Gary Pinka, he used to finish on his right foot, right-hander. So it can be done, but it is rare. All right, Mikey, starting out with 2 in a row. And he gets 3. Jorge on lane 37, going for the 5-pin. Nothing to it. Josh lets that one get away, turns around surprised. Buddy, you're throwing plastic. It's not going to come back. You can't borrow so much. Tristan with a big split on lane 40, the 4-6-7-9. And there's a solid strike by Jake Gilbert on lane 37 as his brother Derek hits just a little high on lane 38. Now, Tristan, you look to me like you're lining up to go for the 2 on the right. I would shoot this like I'm going for the 4-9. You got a better chance of making it. That's why. Hard to get out that 4-pin when you go that way. Nolan, solid in the pocket again on the left lane. Rowan hoping that ball's going to come back, and again, that's a plastic ball. They don't hook much. I know these young guys, the little guys, don't put a lot of speed on it, so it's going to hook some, but you can't borrow that much to the right expecting it to come back. Pretty good shot by Jorge, just leaves a 10-pin. There's a turkey to start the game by Nick. I'll be honest with you, I was surprised we didn't have a 300 in this league this year. We had some serious firepower, including this guy right here, Christian Knowles, who leaves the 3-6-10. I thought somebody was going to shoot a perfect game this year, but it didn't happen. We had one on Prodigy, Big Logan Mathis, a few weeks ago. That's almost as good. Not sanctioned, but it'll live forever on video on YouTube. Christian Knowles makes the 3-6-10 the hard way. The heart-stopping way. Ooh. And that one hooks by for Jorge. Anthony with his first strike of this game. I would expect this game between Team 8 and Team 9 in the varsity to be close. They both want it. They both have some very able players. As we just saw Derek get a spare, a full rack spare on the far left lane, lane 37. There's a spare by his brother Jake on lane 38. And Jorge puts one right in the pocket on lane 37. As Mikey covers his spare over on the end lane. Tristan going for a 10-pin on lane 39. And gets it. Well, now that time Jake ended up on his left foot. So he kind of goes back and forth sometimes. We got to work on that. But he's throwing it pretty good. It's coming off his hand nicely. That one creeps just a little high for Rowan. So he's got the 4-7. Jake has made huge strides this year. Another strike for Nick. That's 4 in a row out of the gate in this game. As Nolan and then Rowan both get spares. Checking again here on the junior varsity sheet. I'm looking at Jake Gilbert, and he raised his average to 130 this year. He was down in the 1-teens, I think, last year. Josh Greenberg, this his first year of organized league bowling. Well, I don't know how organized our league is, but it's pretty organized, I guess. But there's a solid strike by Christian Knowles over on lane 40. Little Josh here, he came to bowl open play one day. I guess it was about a year ago or so, a little over a year ago. We were taping an episode of Prodigy, and he stood there with his jaw down by the floor, agog, starstruck. Charlie Bostic was bowling that day on Prodigy, and I noticed Josh. I went up to him and said, so you recognize these guys? Have you seen them on YouTube? And he said, yeah. I watch the show all the time. I thought I recognized that guy, and sure enough, there's a trip 4 by Nolan on 39. And the next thing you knew, Josh's dad got in touch with me. And they were signing him up for Fall League this year. Tristan with a strike on lane 40. Josh going for the washout on lane 37. Couple of false starts. Oh, that was close and a little unlucky. How did that 2-pin not get the 8? That's a solid strike by Jorge on lane 38. And Nick, 5 in a row, and the hits just keep on coming. Christian up on lane 39. He's working on a strike. And that one hooks high, and he leaves the 3. Jake with the 6-10 on 38 as his brother goes for 9 of the 10 pins and leaves the 5. And that'll be an open frame. As the junior varsity game is trucking right along, they're already in the 7th frame. And it's pretty close, 494 to 483. A spare for Christian Knowles, and look at this. Jake knows how to take something off it and go straight at the corner spares. How about that? Anthony with a strike as Jorge picks up his spare, and now Rowan up on lane 38. Goes with a different ball. That's his tropical. It finishes a little stronger than that Blue Hammer urethane. Jake still throwing plastic, but he's learned to get it off his hand so that he gets some revs. He's going to be a little more dangerous when he gets some better equipment. Tristan with a 4-pin on lane 39. Mikey will go cross lane at the 3-6 as Rowan backs off. I had a little chat with the kids on 37-38 and reminded them that when they get up to bowl, make sure there's nobody up on the lanes to their right. They don't want to jump up in front of them. They're still learning that whole lane courtesy thing. We got to remind them again and again until they get a little older and it becomes something they don't have to stop and think about all the time. There's a good ball by Josh. He leaves the 10 as Nolan is up on lane 40. Rowan with a solid strike on 37. And Nolan throws one of his own on the end lane. All right, here's the shot that Josh has been having trouble with, trying to get that ball to go straight at the right corner. And once again, he borrows too much to the right. And it falls off into the moat. All right, Nick, he's got the front 5. No, it's going to be 9 and a wiggle this time. And Derek with a bad break, leaving the 5-6. There's a big-time strike by Christian Knowles on lane 40. As Nick will go for the spare on 39. Goes with a little bit of a backup and does not back it up. So that's an open frame. That game between the two Roswell varsity teams is pretty tight, just as I expected. 452 for the Special Ks to 471 for Team 8. And Mikey with a big split, the 3-6, 7-10. As Jorge gets a crossover strike. Gotta believe there's a fit issue with his bowling ball. It seems to slip off his hand a little prematurely almost every time. He isn't able to lift that ball out on the lane and put any fingers on it. All right, Mikey for the split. Ooh, that was close. That was close. And you can tell that's a plastic ball that Jake is throwing. As many revs as he was getting on it, it just didn't want to come back. He put a reactive resin ball in his hand, and he'll start seeing some right to left ball motion real quick. It's a good spare. Jorge misses the head pin left, leaves the 1-3-6 as Nolan gets up, working on a double up in frame 7. And a stone 8. Ouch. It's a good ball by Rowan that just didn't quite get up enough to slap out the corner pin. Nick back to his striking ways after that open frame as Jorge just misses the head pin. Now Rowan has figured out how to kind of kill the shot when he's going at those right side spares, but he hasn't quite gotten used to not throwing it out to the right. And he'll miss him in the gutter every now and then, as he just did that last one. The 10 pin for Jake on lane 37, as now Josh will go for a strike. And gets one. As we see Nolan and Jake both cover their spares. Over in the junior varsity, they're in the 10th frame, and it looks like Team 3, Josh, Derek, Jorge, and Jake, have started to put some distance between themselves and Rowan's team. Rowan trying to fend for himself. He's bowled a pretty good game, 170 through 9. That is well above his normal pace. Rowan has a 147 average, so he's certainly overperforming his average, but it's probably not going to be enough. It's tough when your teammates don't show up for the big league championship stepladder. But, you know, these families have other priorities. I get it. They have other commitments. And this is not like it's a huge tournament with scholarship money. Solid strike there for Nolan. He's bowling well today. He's been bowling well all year. Nolan had been about a 170 or so average player the last couple of years. And then all of a sudden, his game got serious this year. He's averaging 191 this season. And I think if you asked him, he'd probably tell you. It's largely a result of him going up in weight. If you recall, last year, Nolan was throwing, I think it was 12, maybe 13 pounds. He went up to 14 this year. Picked up that hypercell fused, pretty strong ball, and he has bowled well with it. He's not like some of these other players who carries around a huge arsenal. He's got the one bowling ball. I think he's got another one that he uses for spares occasionally, but for the most part, Nolan bowls with one ball. Tristan, through the nose, leaves the 3-6-10 as they are winding down the 10th frame in the junior varsity. Big deflection there for Jorge as he leaves the 5-8-10, but I don't think it's going to matter. I believe his team has pretty much put this match away, 730 to 676, and Rowan's team is through. Rowan finishing with a 187. A good game for the little guy. And he too bowling in his first season of league bowling. We saw him for the first time at our Kids Fest back in August. And his dad told me, you're going to have him through high school. This is all he wants to do. He was also playing lacrosse for a while this year, but I think in the end it was bowling that won out. And there's a strike for Jake. And a strike for Anthony over on lane 40. But in the junior varsity, it's going to be Team 3 that will move on to the championship match against Team 4, Ellie's X-Men. Look at this guy. Jake with a clean game. And a double in the 10th. And by the way, while we've been jibber-jabbering here, Anthony has just put up a 6-bagger for Team 8. And Jake closes with a turkey for a 199. And by the way, last week, Jake threw his first ever 200 game in league. And I would keep my eye out for him in the Tournament of Champions, our pins over average tournament next week. His brother won it last year in the JV, and if Jake keeps up this torrid pace, he's going to be one of the favorites going in. Oh! Tristan nearly getting the 4-7-10. But that open frame, I believe, is going to make this match a little closer. 637 to 614 as they are bowling in the 9th frame. And a solid strike by Nolan. And that double will make this match a little closer. Week 10 for Nick on the right lane. Those three kids on the team, Anthony, Tristan, and Nick, all bowled league together over at AMF Woodstock. Tristan came over to bowl with us last year. And then Anthony and Nick came over this year. And we put them all together on one team, and it's been a good match for them. There's a spare for Nick. Christian just got a strike on the left lane. So now we head into the 10th. 666 to 644. Both teams with a vacant. That vacant score will be identical for both teams. So this will be a little easier to follow. Ooh. And Anthony breaks up an ugly split. He had the 4-7-9-10 grandma's teeth. And now he's just got the 4-pin. And that'll make things decidedly simpler. But I guarantee you these guys from Woodstock, Anthony, Tristan, and Nick, have had their eyes on the league championship all year. But the Special Ks, Mikey, Nolan, and Christian, they're going for their third league championship in 4 seasons. They won it 3 years ago, 2 years ago, when the third position on the team was held down by Danny Kabrinsky, Mikey's brother. Danny didn't return this year, so we found another K to put on the team, Christian Knowles, so they were able to keep the team name. And Christian has been a heck of an addition to the team. There's a big strike by Mikey. Now, for the moment, the score looks a little out of whack. 734 to 664. I'm not sure. That may be because the vacant score may have already been added in to the team's total on the left. I'm not sure how they do that, but in any case, it's close. So Mikey with a 203 if he covers the 10-pin. I know he would have liked to have gotten that double. That would have made it closer. That yellowish ball that he throws is plastic. He actually won that in a summer program we had down here. It was a spare clinic, and we had a prize one week in that, and he won it. Tristan comes up short of the head pin and leaves the 1-2-8. And now we do have a bit of a gap between these two teams. 734 to 684, and Nolan appears to be taking a re-rack. I'm not sure if that's because he didn't like the rack or if he just wants to call a timeout and regroup. There's a spare for Tristan. This is no time to be handing the other team any open frames. The winner of this game will bowl for the league championship against Charlie's Angels. Strike for 171. Nope, he's going to come up short of that. And that's a 7 count right there, so he's going to have 168. All right, now Nolan will go on the end lane. He's got a double working. He's got a clean game going. A possible 239. And that would definitely close the gap between the two teams if he can strike out. He slaps out the 10-pin and keeps the string going. So that'll put him in the 220s. One more will get him in the 230s. And his anchor bowler behind him is working on a strike as well. So this could get real interesting at the end. And he rips the rack. So Nolan comes through in the 10th with a double. One more strike for 239. He's done his part, and now look at the score. 744 to 751. Nolan can give his team the lead here with 8 pins on the fill ball. How about them apples? Either way, this game is going to come down to the last 2 bowlers. How about all 3 strikes in the 10th, and Nolan closes with a 5-bagger. Hello. He has really stepped up this season. And now it comes down to this. Christian Knowles with a strike in the 10th. He can shut out the other guys. But he goes high. Leaves the 3-6-10. And so if I'm doing the math correctly, and Lord knows I very rarely do the math correctly, especially when it comes to figuring out how these team totals work in these overhead scoring systems. Looks to me like the door is open for Nick. There's a spare by Christian. Nick, patiently waiting, wants to see what he needs. But it is going to come down to the last few balls, I believe. Now you see how the totals have just jumped up. Now Team 8 is showing 794. So I don't know how they got there, but see what I mean? Sometimes it just doesn't make sense how they add them up. But there's a strike on the fill ball, and I think Nick is going up here and assuming that it's over and that he can't catch him. I'm not sure. 834, that certainly would indicate that. But they were down to a couple of pins before Christian got up and did not strike on the first ball in the 10th. But I think it's right. Team 9 has this salted away. Team 9 being the Special Ks. There's another strike by Nick, so that's going to give him that double in the 10th. And I think he's going to look up and see that they don't add up the way he wants them to. See, this is why this confuses me. 771. He's going to get, they're going to be all three. It is going to be all three. A 236 for Nick. And I think when you add them all up, it's going to be the Special Ks who are the ones advancing. Final score, 834 to 821. It is the Special Ks who will advance. They will bowl Charlie's Angels for the title. And in the junior varsity, Ellie's X-Men will face Team 3 for the championship when we return.
These days, popular teenagers all over the country are finding fun and good companionship in America's most wholesome game. It's the new rock and roll. Roll means bowl. All the fellas and gals are out bowling.
Rock and rolling means bowling.
Bowling means Brunswick.
Every guy and gal should know the name. Brunswick! So join the kids and start in bowling.
It's the newest rock and rolling. America's swinging this teenage game, and Brunswick is the name that makes the game. America's swinging this teenage game, and Brunswick is the name that makes the game.
This is the Star Sapphire, a gem of hypnotic beauty. Now, Brunswick captures that same deep sapphire glow in a beautiful new bowling ball, the Brunswick Crown Jewel. Every movement brings out new mystery and beauty. A unique material gives you a firmer grip, a new promise of scoring accuracy. And its lasting luster will look new for years in your choice of glowing ruby red, iridescent black pearl, or shimmering sapphire blue. To own the new Crown Jewel is a permanent satisfaction. A prized possession you'll treasure for life. Made only by Brunswick, the #1 name in bowling. Step into fun. Learn to bowl free.
The fast and easy Brunswick way. Sign up at your favorite lanes today.
Well, in the junior varsity, I think Rowan was a bit outmanned trying to take on Team 3 without his own teammates on hand. So it's Team 3, the 2 seed in the junior varsity, that's advancing to face the #1 seeded team, Team 4, Ellie's X-Men, consisting of Samuel Anderson, Ellie Grogan, and Hunter Moffett. Samuel and Ellie have both been on Prodigy before. They both made the stepladder in the JV last year at our season-ending All-Star Varsity Tournament of Champions. And of course, you know Hunter. And over in the varsity, it's equally fitting, I suppose, that it comes down to our 1 and 2 seeds. But 3 members of our 1-seeded team, Kara Freeman, Savannah Croft, and Charlie Bostic, could not make it today. Kara's at her high school graduation, and we're not sure where Savannah and Charlie are. So after finishing first in all 3/3 of the season and collecting a perfect score of 30 points to win the #1 seed, they've left Karina Shapiro to fend for herself in the championship match. The good news is Charlie posted the highest league average of any youth bowler in the state of Georgia. So even taking 10 pins off that, there's something for Karina to work with. But she'll have to do it all alone. Mikey wasting no time to get the first ball thrown, and he leaves a 4-pin. And now we get a look at Ellie's X-Men. This is Samuel Anderson on the left lane. And he gets a Brooklyn reverse shaker to go. As we see Josh Greenberg throw his first ball of this game, and he leaves a 10-pin. And now Ellie Grogan. You've seen her the last 2 years in our All-Star Varsity Tournament of Champions in the JV division. Ellie missing the head pin, leaves the 1-2-4-8 as Karina Shapiro bowling for Charlie's Angels. The only Angel we have here today, bowling on 39 as Nolan keeps his string going. That's 6 in a row for Nolan. See what Ellie can do here with the 1-2-4-8. She just misses on the right. And Karina just gets the 6-10 as Derek Gilbert hits thin, leaves the 3-9, and now Hunter Moffitt on lane 37. Young man you have seen many times on Prodigy. Christian Knowles blows the rack. So they begin with a couple of strikes and a spare. Derek Gilbert just missing the 3-9 as Hunter goes for the 2. And he takes care of it. Mikey cuts through the head pin, leaves the 3-6-9-10, a tricky one. Jorge on the right lane on the junior varsity pair, and he leaves a stone 7. Josh hits thin, leaves a few. Here's Karina on lane 40. Karina's made some big improvements in her game this year. Her average is up from years past. She's averaging 171 this season. Mikey missing the back pin on that cluster, so an open frame. Karina has got her hands full this match, and she's got her hands full with this split. She went for it boldly, but leaves both pins standing, so that's an open. Her teammates on the Charlie's Angels team, Kara Freeman, a 173 average this year. Savannah Croft, a 180. Savannah finished second at the Pepsi tournament in the U17 girls. She led the whole way until the championship match, and she actually led that thing until the 10th frame when Glory Harmon took it from her. And Charlie Bostic, a 229 average. He's the Pepsi champion in the U17 boys. Nolan Kemp finishing with a 5-bagger in the last game. Starts with a couple of strikes here, so he's got 7 in a row. As he steps up on lane 40, first here's Christian Knowles on lane 39. And he goes right through him. This little guy on lane 38, Samuel Anderson, we think he's going to be something. He finished 4th at the Pepsi in the U8 boys. He has just turned 8. And look at Nolan. That's 8 in a row for him. There's a spare for Samuel. Karina with a good pocket hit, but it just got a little high. And now she's got another split as Ellie goes on lane 38. Right in the pocket, but it deflects just enough to leave the 5-8-10. As Jake covers the 2-4-5, Christian Knowles on lane 40 gets another strike. And he and Nolan are perfect through 3 frames. Karina can only get the 4-pin to go. Samuel in the pocket leaves the 4-5-7. A tricky split for sure. Ellie gets the 5-8, but the 10 remains, so there's an open frame. Mikey gets another strike. And now Hunter up on lane 38. Brooklyn leaves the 6-10. Karina makes a slight adjustment. Doesn't go quite as high, but she might want to move another board left with her feet. That's still creeping a little high to leave the 4. Ellie leaves the 1-2-4. Nolan going for his 9th strike in a row right here. That one got a little bit wide, which means it started hooking a little early and finished fractionally high. So the string stops. And Hunter with an uncharacteristic miss of a fairly easy spare, and he doesn't want a high five. He is a competitive little guy. Ellie with a spare as Nolan converts his spare. These two teams in the junior varsity, teams 3 and 4, team 4 being Ellie's X-Men. Look at that strike by Mikey on lane 40 as he rolls a 2-pin. These two junior varsity teams have been back and forth all season long. One of them won one of the thirds, the other won the next one, and it's just been kind of back and forth. So I won't be surprised if this comes down to the final few balls between them. Christian trying to replicate the strike that Mikey got, leaves the 2. And Josh gets that ball to come back, and there's a spare for him. Nolan back to his striking ways. That's 9 strikes in 10 frames, his last 10 frames. Well, I shouldn't say 10 frames because 3 of them came in the 10th frame of the last game. So you can figure it out. You know what I meant. There's a strike for Derek. And now Karina. Goes high, leaves the 3-10. The problem for Karina is she's not getting much handicap. If anything, I suspect her team gets less handicap than the Special Ks because she's got Savannah with a pretty high average and Charlie with the highest average in the league. Charlie ended the season with the highest average of any youth bowler in the state, a 229. There's a solid conversion of the baby split for Karina. And I have stepped into the picture here because we've got a reset button on the ball return there that was stuck and was causing the pin setter to cycle all on its own. And I just wanted to make sure that that problem was remedied before Jorge threw a ball down the lane, only to have the rake drop, possibly damage his bowling ball. Derek with a 9 count. Karina with 9 on the first ball over on lane 40. Ooh! The dreaded Lily. The rarely seen 5-7-10, and I'm pretty sure that's the only time we've seen that in our league in the 4 years I've been the youth director. This is almost impossible unless you throw a 6-pound ball at it. He gets one, and that's usually about all you're going to get on that. You might get a couple. Mikey with a spare in the 6th. Well, with us being short 3 players on the Charlie's Angels team, it looks like the varsity players are going to finish before the junior varsity. They're already in the 6th frame. The JV still bowling in the 3rd and 4th frames. Boy, Nolan has picked a good day to bring his A game. I'll tell you what. He has come alive. And there's a shaker strike for Mikey as we watch Samuel on lane 38. All right, in the pocket, leaves the 5 as Jake mixes them up on lane 37. Christian with a solid strike on lane 39. As Samuel covers the spare. Ellie finds the Brooklyn pocket and gets them all to go as Nolan keeps his striking thing going. And you may recall a few weeks ago, Nolan had the first 10 in a row in a game, and then he actually threw the 11th strike, but fouled. Samuel covers the 7. See, he's got a real simple little game, but it's very efficient. Hunter playing deeper on the lane than I've seen him play in a while, and there's really no reason for him to be that far left. This is, of course, the house shot. And look at Ellie go right through the nose and carry a strike. That gives her a double. And there's a spare for Karina. She's still looking for her first strike this game. And look at all those strikes with Nolan and Christian. Hunter covers the spare. He too looking for his first strike this game. Mikey, a little thin, leaves the 2. Josh, pretty good ball there, just came up a little high. Karina crossing over, has the 6 pin, as Hunter goes Brooklyn and leaves a couple, the 3-9. Got to be careful with that one with the sleeper 9 pin in the back. Now we can check the scores in the varsity. It's 568 to 517. It's the Special K's out ahead of Charlie's Angels. There's a good conversion by Hunter of the 3-9. But with the varsity match winding down to the last few frames, Karina's going to have to put up some big numbers here at the end and hope that the Special K's run into a wall. Well, I know Nolan's disappointed with that 10 pin, but he's done his job today. Through the nose for Mikey, leaves the 3-6-10. Now, Nolan hasn't shot many spares recently. Let's see how his spare game is doing. He gets the 10. He's going to have a heck of a game here. That's a chop for Mikey, so that will give Charlie's Angels a bit of life as Jorge just steamrolled the pocket on lane 38 for his team. And now we see the Gilbert brothers, Derek up on lane 37 and Jake about to throw one on lane 38. While we wait for that, here's Christian Knowles on 39. Goes high and leaves the 3-6-10. Jake, you show him how it's done right there. Big strike for Jake. That gives him a double. So he and Jorge both with doubles. And Derek gets a spare. So now Samuel's up in the 6th frame. Gets a wall shot. And this time Jorge's strike ball goes left of the head pin. Good spare for Christian on 39 as Nolan goes for the 4-7 and covers it. Here's Ellie's attempt at a strike on lane 38. Gets a piece of the head pin, but the ball deflects. And now she's got a tricky one, the 4-5. Jorge just missing the head pin on a pretty easy spare. So there's an open. And we can see the lead opening up in the varsity match. 7-18 to 5-50 now. 7-18 to 5-69. So that one may be slipping away from Charlie's Angels. As Ellie going for the split, and oh man, that was close. Another strike for Christian Knowles. And he's got a 256 possible. There's a spare for Karina, and this one is slipping away. It looks like it's going to be the Special K's, who have now moved out to about an 80-pin lead as we are in the 10th frame. Hunter going for a spare, gets it. And now Samuel with a bit of a cluster here. And that's going to be left. But he's bowling well. Mikey leaves the 3-6-7-10. I think we saw him shoot this earlier today. He'll get one last chance. Lil Josh on lane 38 goes Brooklyn, leaves a couple. And Mikey makes the split. As Ellie leaves the 10 pin over on 37. It's about a 100 pin differential now in the varsity match. There's a strike for Karina. She had to wait all the way to the 10th frame to get one, as Ellie misses the 10 pin. Pretty soon, and we will be turning our attention exclusively to the junior varsity match, which is pretty close, as I expected it might be. And now Nolan with a possible 246. But the 7 won't go, so that'll mean that the best he can do is 235, which is nothing to sneeze at. A spare for Derek Gilbert, as Hunter shoots at the 310 baby split and makes it. A spare in the 10th for Nolan, so he's still got that 235 possible. And I tell you what, the next time I see Jorge Seda, the first thing I'm going to do is look at how that ball fits his hand. I would bet that he has outgrown the span on it. That has all the earmarks of an outgrown span. When the ball comes off that prematurely, it's usually because they've just outgrown the drilling. And I tell you what, if you're a parent with a young child who likes to bowl, I'll just give you the warning that you probably need to check their grip about every 6 months. That's a 6 count at the end for a 231 for Nolan, and boy, oh boy, did he do his part today. And we can congratulate the Special Ks. They have won the league championship in the varsity. That is 3 league championships in 4 years. And Christian Knowles, who just joined our program this year, and because his last name starts with K, it just seemed logical to put him with Mikey Kabrinsky and Nolan Kemp so they could keep that Special K name. And that's worked out pretty well for him, I'd say. So after that spare, we will have one more ball to throw in the varsity division. Christian with a possible 236. Ellie with a high hit leaves the 6 pin. And he gives it a little extra rip at the bottom and gets that one to go through the pins like a steamroller, and a 236 game for Christian Knowles. And congratulations to the Special Ks on their league championship. So now we can turn our attention to the junior varsity. They have a decidedly closer game going on. That's a good spare, the 3-9 by Jorge on lane 37. But as you see, the score is 595 to 544. Ellie's X-Men, though, have one less bowler who has put a score up. And Hunter with a stone 9. And that pin will spin around and spin around, but it won't get the 9. Jake with a double. That'll help his team. We encourage these teams to give their teams a name, but many of them didn't, and that's why they're just called Team 3 or whatever number they drew at the beginning of the season. There's a stone 10 on a Brooklyn hit by Samuel. Hunter going for the 9 pin, and he covers it. Samuel hooks by the 10 pin. We think he's going to be special when he gets a little bigger. He just got growing to do, as does Josh, who just threw a solid strike. And now Ellie on lane 37. And that was just a little high. I thought it was right in the pocket, but it just jumped a little high, and the 4, 7, 10, not what she wanted to see. And Derek misses the lane. All right, Ellie, let's see what you can do with a 4, 7, 10. How about it? How about it? Oh! She gave it a go. That's going to be 6 out for Derek. So that'll tighten things up a little bit, I believe. Hunter up on the left lane. And now he's left himself a testing spare, the 3, 9, 10. A little more difficult than the baby split 3-10 because of that 9 pin. And Jorge pulls that and follows in Derek's footsteps and misses the lane entirely. See what Hunter can do with this. Well, he gets the 9, but in so doing, leaves the 10 standing. So that's an open frame. And once these graphics clear, we'll be able to check the scores between the two teams. And with that open frame by Jorge, that will make things a little closer. 663 to 622. Ellie's X-Men with the lead at the moment. But now Jake, who was the star last game with a 199, he's got a double working. And he crosses over this time, leaves the 5 as Josh has a split on the left lane. And that ball doesn't quite get back the way he'd hoped. So an open frame, and Josh finishes with a 138. So now we're down to the final few balls. Look out, that's gonna be wide. He didn't get around that one like he needed to. His brother Derek leaves the 1-3-8-10. So anything can happen. We're down to the 10th frame now in the JV. And Samuel Anderson, before he throws his first ball in the 10th, has decided now's the time to tie his shoes. You don't want to go tumbling across the foul line, especially in the 10th frame. Oh my goodness, that didn't look that high. I thought he was just a little high, maybe a solid 4 kind of high. But instead, he leaves the 410. And well, Ellie almost made it. Let's see if Samuel can make it. That's got a hook. So an open frame. And now Jorge, left of the head pin. And he's left a difficult spare, the 1, 3, 6, 8, 10. Let's get some numbers going here. 715 to 672. Ellie gets 9. She wasn't working on a mark, so that's an open frame for Jorge. 9 out. He'll finish with a 138. It would go a long way to helping her team if Ellie could make this spare. She's got it going in the right direction, and it goes. And look at that trip 4 by Jake. Who knows what pin that was? Probably the 3 pin. He hit high. Something came from the right side to get it. It probably had to be the 3 pin. And that may have just won this match and the championship. We'll see. This is not over yet. Ellie with 9, and Jake doubles in the 10th for the second game in a row. And Hunter may see the writing on the wall now. 724 to 691. And he leaves a stone 9. What a bad break. Jake with a 9 count on the fill ball. That will give them, I think I saw 753 go up. And that's going to do it, I believe. Hunter with a spare in the 10th. He goes strikeless in the championship game, and I know that's not going to set well with him. And it's a 753 to 728 final. And our champions are Team 3 in the junior varsity and the Special Ks in the varsity. We'll talk to them next. Hey, it's me, Coach Randy, with exciting news about a new way you can help support Prodigy Bowlers Tour. Over the past couple of years, we've had a number of Prodigy fans say they'd love to offer something in payment for the Prodigy content seen each week on YouTube throughout the bowling season. Well, I'm pleased to announce that Prodigy is now on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/Prodigy Bowlers Tour. Now, in case you're not familiar with it, Patreon is a platform where YouTube content consumers like you can connect directly with YouTube content creators like me and pledge a small amount of money each month to support the work that goes into creating the content that you enjoy watching. It's based on the age-old concept of patrons. About 30 to 40 hours of work goes into the production of each and every episode of Prodigy Bowlers Tour. So if you enjoy the content on Prodigy Bowlers Tour each week and you'd like to support the show, please check it out at patreon.com/Prodigy Bowlers Tour. There are 4 affordable subscription tiers, and each one offers a different reward, up to and including sneak peeks of shows before they're released to the public, exclusive behind-the-scenes content that only members will ever see, And there's even a tier that will enable you to get all that and get your name in the credits each week as a producer of the show. You'll be helping me to be able to continue making the show each week and even reinvest some of the money into improving the show going forward. Thanks for checking it out, and thanks for supporting Prodigy Bowlers Tour.
It's not about makes or misses.
Solomon Solomon makes history today.
It's not about trophies or fame.
How about this young man?
It's about the people you meet and the memories you make.
You know, I think the social aspect of it is really what it means for me to be a bowler. You know, that sense of community that you get with other people that you bowl with.
And it's a wonderful thing about the sport. It brings you close to people beyond just kind of the bowling itself, and I would have never expected that.
It was a valiant effort, but Ellie's X-Men couldn't quite fend off the strong showing of Team 3, Josh Greenberg, Jorge Seda, and the Gilbert brothers, Derek and Jake. And we're hearing rumblings of how Hunter wants to go ahead and move up to the varsity division next year. So this may have been his last chance to win a league championship in the JV. And over in the varsity division, I know Karina's got to be disappointed, and that probably starts with how her teammates kind of abandoned her for this final day of league. She put up the good fight, but the Special Ks were on a mission today. Mikey is graduating high school, and this was his last chance at a youth league championship, and the Special Ks are now champions for the third time in the past 4 seasons. That puts them up there with the New England Patriots of the 2000s and the Dallas Cowboys of the 1990s in terms of a dominating performance. So, congratulations to both of our league champions, Team 3 in the Roswell Junior Varsity and Team 9, the Special Ks in the Roswell Varsity. As a result of winning their league championships on Prodigy Bowlers Tour, they all get to sign the coveted trophy pin. There they are, the league champions for 2018-19 in the Roswell Varsity. It's Christian Knowles, Nolan Kemp, Mike Gabrinsky, and that is 3 times in 4 seasons, although Christian Knowles is a new addition this season. But these 2 guys, this is 3 out of 4. Congratulations. No one ever knows the date. Nolan, is this your first time this year?
I would like to say that I don't know how he did this. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for my dad teaching me this. My beautiful mother, happy Mother's Day, I love you. I don't know what else to say, but
it is Mother's Day weekend, so put your name on there. For Christian Knowles, who signed it at the Pepsi, signed it earlier this year. So this makes 3 times for you. Oh, he's going with the low visibility yellow. Congratulations to the Special Ks. So here's your champions in the Roswell Junior Varsity. Josh Greenberg, he's been knocking at the door all year. Jake Gilbert, who finished 3rd at Pepsi in the U10 boys division. Derek Gilbert, your winner last year in the Roswell Junior Varsity All-Star TOC. And Jorge Seda, whose team won the Thanksgiving Turkey Shootout on Prodigy back in November. They rallied today and moved from 2nd to 1st, so you all get to sign the coveted trophy pin, and this makes you eligible for the Prodigy Bowlers Tour Tournament of Champions. So have at it, guys. Remember, remember, next week is our big season finale for our Roswell League kids as we hold our annual All-Star Varsity Tournament of Champions. This is the pins over average tournament with real deal scholarship money riding on the outcome. So tune in for that next week on Prodigy Bowlers Tour. Then in June, we reach the home stretch, our final 4 events of Prodigy Season 3. The GYBT Tournament of Champions on June 2nd. A special Prodigy road trip the following weekend, June 8th and 9th. The Prodigy Tournament of Champions, the mother of all stepladders, where we'll award the coveted trophy pin June 22nd at AMF Woodstock. And our final event of the season, the Adult Youth Scotch Doubles 9-pin no-tap race to 300 on the house shot, where young and old alike can participate. So if you're a youth bowler, come on down to Bolero Roswell on June 29th. We'll begin registration at 12 noon. You can bring your parents, bring your coaches, everyone can bowl. We'll see you then.